It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Absolutely love it. It's been a wonderful show, so thank you so much for the role that you guys have played, and I hope you're going to continue to do that with some great questions and comments about something that is very pertinent, I think, obviously to Kat and I, being relatively new parents, but now moving into that phase where we're going to have to start thinking about daycare. So you're going to have to, every parent has to broach that phase of going back to work, most parents at least, and then what do you do with the little one?
And it's challenging, it's difficult.
It's an emotional question, it's based on realities in your situation. It even brings in socio-economic concerns about South Africa. It's crazy, but this has been one of the biggest get real moments in my adult life. Meg Faure is here to help us unpack, look at this from every side, because there is no clear-cut answer.
Yeah, everything has pros and cons.
Absolutely. So Meg, let's start by maybe looking at what are the various options that are available in terms of childcare. I'm assuming primarily, of course, having a parent looking after their child. That's I guess, in an ideal
one.
Yeah. 5-star.
Yeah. So,
But there are other options available, especially if you are, as a parenting team, looking to return to work and restore that kind of normality in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So tier 1, like you said, one parent, either one at home with the child. Next level, you've probably got a nanny in your home, and that can be somebody who could be a domestic worker who's got other responsibilities in your home, or somebody who's actually employed primarily as the nanny for your child, and if she does a little bit of kind of domestic stuff on the side, that's fine. Then you've got the au pair, which is, for many families, really out of the reach of most families, because it's very expensive, generally highly paid, and you are paying by the hour, and these people are professional au pairs. Then the next level up, you've got day moms, and these are an amazing option where a mom who has maybe had children of her own, or even a granny or an auntie, will say, I'm going to take in 4 little ones or 5 little ones into my home. So it's a home situation where somebody's almost like an auntie, almost like a family member, but often they're not family members, look after 1 to 6 little ones in their home, and they might have somebody like a domestic worker who assists them. Could need help. And then you go a little higher than that, you're into creches. And creches can be small and bespoke and very high quality, 4 little ones in a group, all the way through. And what we know is that in some of our township areas in particular, and more impoverished areas, creches can have really an enormous amount of children, up to 60 children in a
for sure.
in a
Looking
group.
after an entire community's children.
You're looking after a lot of children, and then going up one higher than that when the kids get a little older, when little ones get a little older, you're talking about play groups and play schools. So that's your kind of range of care all the way through in the first 3 years.
And I guess also the option of a family member, if you have, for instance, a grandma or an aunt who has time available on their hands and they're willing to take care of the little one.
And I consider that kind of in that first tier that we spoke about, whether it's you, your partner, or
that's a luck
granny.
of the draw right there.
Absolutely.
If you've got that job.
And grannies are amazing. I mean, grannies can really give the best
before.
care. They've done it before. It gives them meaning. There's a lot of research that shows that in the older generations, when they are taking care of little ones, it gives them meaning as well. And so with an aging population across the world, and particularly in the Western world, it's become a very sought-after form of childcare.
Wow.
Let's look at that tier 1, if you will, or the tier 2 rather, of having in-home childcare. What are the pros?
So first of all, what's amazing about having in-home childcare, which would be having a nanny, a domestic worker, or an au pair in your home, is that first of all, your baby won't be getting sick as often.
Less germs.
Less germs.
Or controlled environments.
Exactly, because as soon as they're in creche, that's one of the big problems there. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that the entire routine can be catered for that child. So you're not trying to stick them into everybody else sleeping at 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. When it's their sleep time, they sleep. And they're also getting very much, very attuned care and loving care that is really focused in on them as an individual, rather than as them and a part of a group. So I think it's a brilliant form of childcare. And in South Africa, more than any other country, or maybe the rest of Africa, we have this opportunity to have these amazing women caring for our children in our home.
Yeah, but I guess there is the downside of it as well. We've heard horror stories, absolute horror stories about what some nannies have done to kids when their parents aren't there. So I guess the question that I want to know is then, how do you go about choosing the right kind of nanny? The question that we asked earlier, how do you vet them to be as certain as you possibly can that they will they'll take as good care of your child as you would have done and not cause them any harm?
So you definitely want to have a very robust interview system, and you're looking for somebody with what's called high executive function. She can plan, she has solutions, she can think on her feet. It's not somebody that is just going to be kind of...
Be present.
And be present, yeah. So that's very important. You're definitely going to want to find somebody who has got a CPR course, and if you are employing somebody who looks wonderful, who hasn't had a CPR or first aid course, you must invest in that. That's very important. Because
you yourself should have, and you can both
Absolutely.
go together if necessary.
Absolutely, and you should be doing that. And then if she's had a bit of training, there are a couple of organisations in South Africa that do nanny training or domestic care training, and that is really, really a good idea, because then she knows how to, juggle doing a meal time, putting the baby down, and then doing a bit of housework. So she can kind of really know how to juggle all the balls.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I would be looking for.
Yeah.
I would also recommend, because you are essentially becoming an employer, and in my case, it wasn't necessarily the character of the nanny that we had hired was amazing. She was such a wonderful human being, but her own situation became too unstable, and that had the greatest impact. So you've got to get a sense of what sort of... There's a reason why we do financial checks or background checks, and you don't have to go to the full extent as some companies would go, but it will play a role. So you need to think along those lines. We've had some cool comments, some wonderful, very expansive comments coming through. Just to touch on some of those. Njilokazi Matro saying, I'd say both daycare is more advantageous. And then this one coming from Michelle Moore-Gill. Daycare from 8 months old. I work from home, 3 roads from our creche. Our daughter is an only child, and we wanted her to have friends and learn social skills. Now in her second year, so she's got a strong immune system after a bit of a hairy first year. I feel you there, Michelle. I do pick her up early at least once a week and try once a month to do something special, just us, because work allows. I do have the most amazing boss, Dave Eastwood. Dave, you're getting a shout out, bro.
Dave.
Who prioritizes family like every employer should. If she's sick, I fetch her, and as long as I'm available online, if totally understanding of the more difficult days, made the choice for her to go to creche, an easier one. Michelle, I'm sensing a lot of external processing here about making that decision as well, which we've had to do, myself and Linz have had to go through that process, so I can appreciate what you're saying. But that's, again, she's fortunate to have a bit of leeway, to have an understanding boss, to have,
But she has, like you say, she's thought through every aspect of it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Another comment we got here from Carmen Stacey Lee Johnson, because we asked the question whether a nanny or daycare is preferable. Carmen says, I say both. Nanny till both my kids respectively turned 1. They went to daycare as I worked in a retail business, and that requires you to obviously dedicate time. My husband passed away a year after our second child. Our son turned 1, and he was at a nanny, which I had to make the decision to place him at a daycare. It was hectic, but now my son's vocabulary is on another level, lol, and he loves to interact with other kids his age.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's an important part of it as well. As much as you might be reluctant to the idea of sending your child to a daycare and you're thinking about them getting sick and the hairy first year, there's a lot to be developed that you, as a person in an isolated situation at home, especially if they don't have siblings, cannot.
Well, in fact, both of those messages, the one spoke about socialization and the other one spoke about stimulation. And those are the two aspects that are very, very important, particularly as little ones get a bit older. And so socialization will kick in if you're in a day mom situation, a few other children, or in a creche or playgroup. And stimulation, a nanny can do really well, but she needs to be taught what to do.
You see, now this is, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here. For me, it was exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
I've seen when my boy, because he was being spoken to in Xhosa, I felt that language skill was developing. I felt that he was just because she spoke to him in the way that we spoke to him and that we had created that perfect construct, and I saw his development just launch ahead.
Yeah.
Now that he has gone into an environment where he's mainly only engaging with other children, he's mimicking their behavior. Language has taken a slightly different turn. So it's not necessarily always one or the other.
But you had a high quality nanny.
Yeah,
so that was
for
the difference.
sure,
You
but
know,
that's-
she was stimulating him.
But that should be the overall goal. You set the tone. You create the environment, I think.
Sure.
So complex.
I feel like a union of nannies is necessary now. We need
Yeah,
to
man.
form a professional body of nannies of sorts. But anyway, okay, listen. Please keep those comments and the questions coming through on our Espresso Morning Show SABC3 Facebook page. Meg is going to be here a little while longer as we continue this very interesting topic on Baby Talk.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Happy Thursday, and thanks for joining us at the start of a brand new day. Baby Talk Town with occupational therapist Meg Faure, and it could be a Baby Talk Town too.
Yeah.
We turn it into that, don't we?
It is. It's a village. It's a village. And it takes a village. Okay.
So today we're discussing the option of either taking your little one to daycare or having a nanny come into the home to take care of them if you do intend on going back to work. And what are some of the things to consider? And earlier on, we were talking about the importance of vetting your nanny, making sure they have the executive skill set to make decisions. Are they qualified enough? Do they have a CPR license? Do they know how to administer that in emergency
Can they replace
situations?
you in your own home?
Yeah, but as a parent, you can't really get over that anxiety, can you? It's impossible to think that somebody would take care of your child as well as you would.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't matter what care you're going for. You will be anxious. Potentially, maybe your mum you might trust the most. But for the rest...
And part of that vetting process is an actual testing out phase. Be there, be present, see and feel, because your intuition, 9 out of 10 times is on the money. Let's take it outside of your home into another person's home. You've spoken about those bespoke daycare situations, or maybe a stand-in mom or day mom. What needs to be in place, or what are the boxes that you need to tick in that instance?
So you want to check when you arrive that the place is clean, that the little ones look well cared for, that they're not sitting in the corner or lying in the corner, not doing anything, not being cared for. So you really want to make sure that all the little ones who are already in the space are being well cared for. You want to know that she's also got qualifications. If she has more than 6 children in the home, she has to be registered with the government. So under 6 children, that daycare situation or creche doesn't have to be registered, but as soon as you're over 6, you do have to. So you'll want to check that. You want to check the safety of the home. Are there animals around? Are there dogs that are likely to be able to get to your child? And there's certain breeds of dogs that shouldn't be in any daycare situation at all, and you want that to be for certain. You probably want to do a criminal check on both a nanny, as you spoke about just now, but even on a day mum as well.
Sure.
You never know. I mean, so you want to do all of these checks and balances, but it'll actually come from your heart. I mean, Graham mentioned that. You'll walk in there and you'll know. Did your baby feel included? Is she open to listening to what your baby's routine is? Or is she saying every baby sleeps at these times and that's the way it happens, you know? So,
I guess that's going to be my next question as well. How carefully do you have to consider your parenting technique versus what it is that they offer? Because, I mean, obviously with a nanny in your house, you pretty much get to dictate.
Yeah.
But what if it's in that situation? Do you speak to them about that and say, this is how I want my child to be raised, and I'm paying you for it, so you're doing a job? Obviously, don't take that tone. Don't listen to me in terms of that.
That's after the 5th time that you've had to discuss something, I mean, I feel it as well, and I know exactly the feeling that you relate.
So I have had a lot of questions that come through to me on my Facebook page with moms who are saying, my baby won't go to sleep until 10 o'clock at night because the daycare is allowing him to sleep at 4 or 5 in the afternoon or whatever. Now that's unacceptable, because if everything is being disrupted for night sleep or nighttime feeds, for instance, because of what's going on in the daycare situation, it's very disruptive for you. You've got to get up in the morning. So in those sort of situations, I help mums to write down their baby's ideal routine. So you should know what their routine is, ideally according to their age, for instance. So if you've got an 18-month-old, they should be having 1 day sleep between 12 and 2, let's say. So if the daycare wants them to have 2 sleeps, because that's convenient for them to have sleeping babies, that's not okay. So it's actually sitting with them and saying, this is his routine on the weekend. This is the food I want him to eat. And if you're very specific about the food, you might want to actually send it in, because you might say to them, I don't want him to be eating.
Like we have a thing of this, no nuts allowed at all, just as a safety measure. And we this is probably one of the big things when it comes to daycare centres. You've got to shop around and find the one that matches you. But we've had a couple of other comments come through here that I just want to broach very quickly. Sarina Abraham saying, when my daughter was born, I looked after her. When she was at the right age and I was working, she went to daycare. Some people do prefer a nanny. I feel it's up to the parents to decide what is best for their child. There are some incredible nannies and daycares out there.
She's spot on.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's what works for you.
Yeah.
And you do have an opportunity. I think I've had some of my most valuable insights offered by by a nanny, by the teachers at daycare. So it's one thing imposing what you think is the best for your child, but you're also then plugging into other minds, and most nannies will have been a mom.
Yeah.
You know, most daycare operators either are moms or have had experience with a plethora of children, personality types, issues, especially coming into the twos.
Yeah.
And so it's a two-way street.
Yeah. So look, I mean, she's definitely right that it's very individual. You'll get some nannies that are awesome, others that letting balls drop. But I think there's a little bit of a gold standard that I can suggest. In an ideal world, as you said, mums or dads are there, but that isn't the ideal world for most of us. Then you want to have very small, limited numbers with a carer until your baby's at least a year of age. And that's very important on an emotional level. So whether it is a nanny, a daycare situation, or a day mom, it's up to 4 children only. And that really is a gold standard that I think is very important for little ones. And socialization actually is not important at that age.
Oh.
No. At over 18 months of age, socialization becomes very important. And that's when you can start to say, right, let's now transition from a day mom or a nanny at home into a creche or a play group. And so it's at 18 months to 2 years old that's when the transition happens in an ideal world. So that's kind of your ideal progression. Parents at home, very small group caregiving on into a play group later.
Because that could bring in things like separation anxiety, right? Which could
I was going
be
to
a
ask,
massive.
what is the right way to approach it if you know that you're going to be moving from nanny to daycare,
Always tough.
or now you're no longer going to be in that environment? How do you broach that with your little one?
Yeah, so look, I mean, separation anxiety happens at 2 key ages. One is about 9 months of age, and the other one is about 18 months to 2 years old, and they happen for very different reasons.
Yes.
The little one, it's more about your 9-month-old. It's more about playing peekaboo games and hide and seek, so that they start to learn that you actually do still exist even when they can't see you, because that's what they get anxious about.
Wow, yeah.
And then for your toddler, it's just, really just being present when they're there. I mean, I think one of the mums said it just now in one of those messages, that she puts aside one-on-one time when she sees her baby.
Yes.
A wonderful strategy for that is to actually have reunion time every time you reunite. So when you reconnect in the evening, having at least 15 minutes of putting your cell phone away, having one-on-one time and really focusing in on your little one to just try and build up that emotional tank.
Making it really exciting, like the fact that mom or dad is
are
home
home.
is really exciting to see you, look
Yeah,
into
engage.
your eyes, that kind of thing.
Longer than 15 minutes. When you get home, put your phone away. But there is no greater pleasure, dude, and you're going to get to experience than walking. And I try and engineer my day to be able to go and be with Linz when we pick a little dude up. But that feeling when your child looks up in daycare and sees you at the
Face lights
door,
up.
it is awesome.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
Can you
man.
imagine? Let's take a look at another comment here from Joan Cameron, who said, I had both, a nanny while they were babies. I worked half days, so once I was home, I was ready to leave after her lunch. Daycare later, where they could interact with other children, learn songs, colour in, play with wooden bricks, play outside in the playground area, and much, much more. In fact, they enjoyed it so much that they didn't want to go home. I extended the hours until 4 p.m. So is that an example of a perfectly executed transition?
That's the plan.
That, for me, is really a perfect execution. It's not possible for everybody. And again, just going back, nannies aren't always the best, and neither is daycare the best if you haven't got the right environment. It's the quality.
Well,
but that's gold standard.
The extramural activity after daycare, because that's often a thing that's now, it's being introduced. There's singing, there's play, and we've spoken about how much is too much, how much of a good thing especially for the younger children. And we're kind of waiting before we kind of extend those hours.
Yeah.
But what is a traditional daycare time? Can you leave your baby in someone else's care for 8 hours?
Yes,
or
because
12 hours?
If you have to, you have to. So, I mean, I think in an ideal world, if you can get your little one home for their midday sleep, like, so if you're a mum who's working from home or dad working from home, you can collect your little one at 12 o'clock, let them sleep in their own bed, and then, kind of you're with them after when they wake up. That's ideal. But for most of us, it's not possible. We're working 8-hour days. And so then as long as they're in good care, with good routines, with a caring person, that's okay.
What do you think of companies investing in daycares at work, where a mom or a dad could take their child to work, having a caretaker on the premises of the company, on the campus, and then you being able to see, I mean...
So that's gold standard. absolutely no question.
Come on, corporate.
Well, if
Yeah,
if
man.
you're interested in it, Patagonia, which is such an ethical company in America, has exactly that. They have launched this Patagonian childcare within their environment, and many big American corporates do it, and many actually South African ones do as well.
Yeah, I know of
But
one,
it is very, very important that we do start to offer that. It gives flexibility. Businesses will get more out of parents, particularly millennials. They want that flexibility.
Yeah, let your
So-
staff go home twice a week to work from home in a way that best suits them. It's all about staff retention, guys. If you want to keep the best workers, give them what they want.
And then you think about the impact that might have on the kind of children that you're then raising that then filter through into the system and become responsible citizens that care, that have empathy because they've been reared by their parents who've shown them love and attention when they need it most.
Absolutely. So I've got a childcare program called Play Sense, and we're busy working with corporates at the moment to start to put that into the corporate buildings as well. So
on you, Meg.
No, because
needs to happen.
It really does take a village, but you are the most important. You're the mayor of that village, so you are definitely the best possible care for your child. But don't judge yourself if you can't be there, if you have to go back to work. That is the reality for most of us. But you just have to be informed and very, very particular about the process of selecting either a nanny or daycare. Both could be just as good.
Meg, you're wonderful. Thank you very much
That was
for your
a
time.
great
Expertise.
Thank you
Check
so
out
much.
at Meg Faure on social media if you'd like to engage with her a little bit more. She's a wealth of information and knowledge.